Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our second all-hands call for 2021. Thank you for joining. We have a large number of registrations for this session, and a lot of you have been promoting this through your social media channels. So we really like to thank you for this, because we definitely can't do this alone. This is an open call, so we're not just joined by members of the SE Society, but also by those who are not a member yet. We definitely hope you find this call interesting and educational, and hope you will become a member as a result of this session. As a reminder, becoming a member is free, and you can sign up through sesociety.org. As always, this call is being recorded, and the recording will be shared afterwards on both YouTube, on the Sales Enablement Society page, as well as on sesociety.org. For those of you who are joining for the first time, maybe a quick introduction about the SE Society. We're the only not-for-profit community focused on elevating the role of the sales enablement profession. The society was started in February 2016 when a group of sales enablement enthusiasts came together in Washington, D.C. Today, we're a community with more than 8,000 people globally across 59 chapters in roughly 30 different countries, and we experience a tremendous growth from the moment we started. I will be a host for today. My name is Thierry Verherwijnen. I live in the Netherlands, and I had the opportunity to be involved in the field of sales enablement for the last 13 years. I sit on the board of advisors for the SE Society, and I was personally able to witness the great impact the SE Society had on elevating the role of sales enablement professionals, and the personal impact the society had on both myself, my career, as well as a lot of the people in the SE Society. This for me is the primary reason I'm happy to give back some of my time and sit on the board and also host this call. Apart from this, I work for Ernst & Young, for EY, and I run our sales organization for hyperautomation in EMEA. Let's look at our agenda for today. We will start with an executive board update, both by Greg and by Kelly. After this, I will hand it over to Juliana and Mary for an update on the great work she's doing at IBM. Then we will move into our Practitioner Spotlight together with Eric, who works for Vonage. And after that, we will wrap up with an SE Society update with for the chapters with Brian and for Chip. So with that, I would like to hand it over to Greg and Kelly for their updates from the board.
Thanks very much, Thierry. Kelly here. The Board of Directors hold quarterly strategic planning sessions in order to evaluate the progress of the organisation. And we look to leverage past successes and to create a roadmap for increased growth, innovation, and deeper opportunities really to engage with our members. The following, Craig's going to run us through some highlights of Q2, and then I'll take you through some priorities we've got for the rest of the quarter. Craig, do you want to take us away?
Sure will. Thanks, Kelly. Welcome all, and it's great to be here today to share some of the updates. One of the things that the board is wanting to do is to make sure that we're transparent on all the great things that are happening. So we have a lot to cover, so let me jump right into it. I'm going to start out with the highlights. You might have noticed there's a redesigned newsletter. Now, some newsletters may be a little bit dry. Joanna, thank you very much. This one's not. So we've got this great new newsletter. It covers articles from practitioners like yourself, upcoming events, podcasts, chapter updates. There's a make some noise section for existing exciting members to be in the news. Proof is in the traction. The analytics right now are quite good, 98% on the deliver rate. The click rate is 22%. We get an open rate of 6.5. So be sure to check that out. The newsletter, look for it. It's called Elevate. Another update, we recently released the 2021 sponsorship proposal. It's quite comprehensive. There's a lot of opportunities for sponsor vendors to be part of this growing community. There's something for everybody, whether you're a small company or a large company. As an example, there's a Lion Partner Program for partners that are sub 10 million in revenue, so they can participate as well. And my Perspective on this is that I've been part of this for a while now. Vendors come in with the same passion as practitioners. They're really here to grow the success of the market and lead with thought leadership. Another update, increased measure of security. Who doesn't want more security and clean data? Well done, again, Joanna, on increasing the environment where it's safer. The reduction in fake accounts, spam, mail, and so on is going to make the experience much better for all. The website, you might have noticed, the homepage has been updated. There's new information. It's cleaner, easier to find some things. Next up is going to be a rebrand in Q4 and the launch of a new community site and discussion board. So stay tuned on that. And as always, open to input to improve our website experience. Social media is key. Some of the numbers that Thierry just showed a minute ago there, we're growing and we're the largest of our kind when you look at sales enablement related communities. We have a global reach with chapters 60 plus. How do we do that? It's through social. Some of the analytics to show the power of numbers, we have 17,500 plus followers, and we're adding 100 a month. 100 a month ain't bad. LinkedIn group, 3,400 plus members. Engagement rates are high. In fact, the SES has maintained a 8.45 over the last 30 days participation rate versus others of our kind at 5.23. So we're doing some things quite right. Engagement and growth on LinkedIn are vital. Anything you can do as members to share our pages with your peers, be active, like things, share things, and as always, contribute. Love to hear your opinion. Here's an interesting initiative. Pre-production has started now on the SES and Johns Hopkins University Carey Business School Sales Enablement Education and Certificate Project. It's a long title. Point being is that the SES is involved now with a great learning institution here for creating the first ever sales enablement educational offering. I, for one, believe it's about time. Foundational course, it's going to have advanced learning. It's estimated to launch in Q4. So a fantastic initiative there. Joining us, and this is going to be part of the SES JHU 2021 Curriculum Board, are some outstanding members: Christopher Kingman, Siobhan Thatcher, Christy Johnson, Liz McClintock, Ali Kanda, Jen Bullock, Rebecca Bell, Phil Cleary, and Johan Labise. Great stuff there. Look forward to seeing more from that initiative. And finally, I'm going to sneak this in. Sorry, Joanna, but the Minneapolis-St. Paul Twin Cities chapter is on today. We're going to discuss rolling out enablement and getting the culture to adopt it. Want to sneak that in to know that our chapters in the field are active. With that, pass it back over to you, Kelly.
Thanks, Craig. Always good to have a plug there. Yay, go Australia. All right, so let's talk about a couple of more priorities we're focused on for the quarter. And we're working really closely with Chip and Brian, who you will hear from very soon, to provide some stronger operational support for our chapter leaders to create more efficiencies and enable the chapter growth. Our chapter leaders work really hard around the globe, and as we all know, we're all voluntary, so it's really important we provide them stronger support. There'll be some new chapter kits to support them, looking to streamline some of the processes and the posting of calendar events, improve the discussion board engagement as well. Again, looking at updating the chapter leader list, and we definitely have some more coming. There's lots of movement, which Chip and Brian will take us through shortly. And yeah, looking to really also get a bit of a chapter kickoff happening in the fall, in person if possible for those countries where we're certainly able to, or virtual kickoff focus coming soon. Another initiative is around increasing the visibility and opportunities really for thought leadership for our members via the SES blog that will be out soon. We're going to open that up to our chapter leaders first to provide some blog contribution. And we're also looking to hear, though, from practitioners to submit articles for the newsletter that Craig already spoke about. And the Make Some Noise section, of course, we really want to recognise those members that we have out there. But the big one is the 2021 SES Experience, the annual conference. So thank you to everyone who participated in that survey. We received 145 responses, and your feedback was highly valuable in keeping us and helping us determine the right direction. And with that, I guess the drum roll is, based on the responses, the conference will be live in person in September, from the 29th of September through to the 1st of October, and that will be in Atlanta, Georgia. And we'll have that with some live streaming with certain portions of the conference. So we're prioritizing to find some really exciting and innovative ways to foster, high connection and engagement for the global community, for both the in-person and online during that conference. So we had some really interesting results that came through from the survey around how people, where they're coming from. There were about 22% were from outside the US, 78% from inside the US responding. Almost 10% of new non-members planning to join, which was great. The breakdown of who contributed to the survey, around 70% in practitioners, as we would expect, and then consultants and our tech providers, which is part of the community, of course, that we all love and live in. And then, yeah, there's some more stats that I think we can probably share in our next newsletter with you, but, we go into sort of, why and the company restrictions or travel restrictions. There's some interesting information to share there. But really the top 3 sessions selected will be around, practitioner perspectives, proven processes, frameworks, and approach to challenges. You've asked to hear from practitioner stories, so we'll round up those to bring them to the conference for you. And technology is right up there about best practice in the enablement tech stack that you're looking to hear from. And the 4 topics most interested for everybody was around measuring sales enablement success. What are we measuring? Strategy, of course. The sales manager is still a highlight and a focus for you all, and the tech stack. So with that, the conference committee meetings will start in June, and sponsorship soon to be released June 1st. So Terry, that's it from us. Quite a lot there going on with the board, and we thank everybody for their contributions.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Greg and Kelly. That was a very large update. So thank you for sharing all that information. And with that, let's move on to the next section in the agenda, which is our guest interview. And for that, I would like to hand it over to Juliana, who sits on the board as well and is also the CEO of Oxygen Learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Thierry. And I am excited to have Mary Tafuri here with us today. So Mary, welcome to the Sales Enablement Society All Hands Call.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very excited to be here with you.
Fantastic. And Mary, for those of you who don't know, is the VP at IBM. She does global sales enablement and skills activation. So we're going to just kind of dive right in because we don't have a lot of time. And what I would also say for everyone is that we're going to take some questions for Mary after I ask her a few. So if you've got questions, please pop them in the Q&A or the chat, either one, and we'll try to monitor that and bring it forward. So Mary, one of the things that we always talk about with people, and I think is really fascinating, is kind of where they've come from in their career. And you've obviously reached some of the highest levels in sales enablement. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in sales enablement?
Sure. First of all, probably if you would have asked me this question 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I would not even say, do I see sales enablement in the horizon? But it's an interesting question. So let me share. I've been a good 23 years with IBM, and my first 7 or 8 years, I was happily swimming in my technology lane, individual contributor, and every 1 year or so, I was learning a new product. So that was what was satisfying me. And then about 12, 13 years ago, I started a managerial career. And I started to appreciate how leading teams, leading bigger projects, and helping others to grow, how to talent to grow, but also how to people to see their own talents. It's amazing that sometimes people don't even see their own talent. So it feels great as a leader when, or as a coach and a mentor, because I do a lot of that too, you help people to see that. So in my career, I've been kind of gravitating all around the customer, from selling the vision to helping them deploy products and solutions, to sitting side by side to solve problems. And that gave me quite a rounded, let's say, experience of the journey that customers go through and companies go through in support of the customer's experience. But the common pattern in all these roles was the need to make a transformation. And that's how I landed in this role as sales enablement leader initially 3 years ago for the cloud team. And then, you know, a few months after, more products were added to my responsibility. And now I'm the global sales enablement leader for global sales in IBM. So a need for a transformation, a need for modernizing the sales enablement in IBM, and an expectation to have people in this role that have a field experience, not only in the leadership as a sales enablement leader, but also within the sales enablement practitioners. We really encourage to have a nice blend of people that come and rotate into this role with field experience, because we do believe a lot in experiential learning as part of helping sellers to be more confident, more valuable for their clients.
That's fantastic. And it is interesting, and our speaker towards the end has the sales experience as well. So I think that, you know, we do see that across our membership and where people come from. It's a huge area of growth into the sales enablement. And I think you were probably like a lot of people 10 years ago. You know, I think it was about 12 years ago that the first definition of sales enablement was coming out and being talked about. So probably not a lot of people were in that space either 10 years ago thinking about how they could be in sales enablement. You know, I am curious, and you and I have talked a little bit about this, but when you first were asked to be in this role, I feel like your boss who hired you kind of hired you for some specific reasons. Can you give us a little bit of insight into that sales enablement leadership role? Because one of the things that we're seeing across sales enablement right now are different levels of sales enablement emerging, right? We have very junior practitioners now. We've got a lot of mid-level practitioners, and we're seeing the rise of this very senior practitioner. And I think, you know, we're going to be talking about this at the conference and talking about the careers. And I think some of the JHU work that we're doing as well is showing this, that this role has really become elevated. It's growing dramatically. We see that in just our own numbers as this society, and the fact that it took off, and some of what Thierry talked about earlier. But what were some of that, you know, what was some of the things that your boss was looking for, that criteria to bring in at the senior level?
Well, it is, for us, it's a very important role. In fact, I reported the CEO of IBM. The expectation for this role, obviously, is to have an outcome-driven mindset. I don't have to, you know, preach this to you. You wrote an entire book about it. But I think for everyone in this role, having that outcome-driven mindset is key. What do I mean by that? Well, we are here. Our, you know, core mission is help sellers to bring more value to their client, and the role of the seller itself in the market in the last 5 years changed a lot. And the last 1 year changed a lot, even more. But this pandemic disrupting also the role of the seller. So the seller needs to do quite a lot of homework to prepare to have a valuable conversation since the very first moment. Even more, to be proactive in selling. I think what Craig earlier talking about for our community to be more socially engaged, have more, raise our digital eminence. And the sellers need to do this even more, because clients decide what to purchase before even talking to a human being. So our role as a sales enablement team is to be the catalyst of that transformation, accelerate their readiness. So have that outcome-driven mindset is the core expectation of the leadership. When in IBM they asked me to to think about how do we even measure. I think Kelly was talking about measuring success as one of the core focus areas for the conference, the upcoming conference, and I'm so excited to hear that, because I think too often we fail measuring the wrong things. And so understanding what are the outcomes that we want to measure, and truly design and deliver programs that we can see. We can talk a little bit about that, how do we see make an impact to the seller's productivity in the end.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it has been interesting watching the survey coming in for the conference and what people are interested in. And we continue to see the measurement boiling up more and more over the years, and until it's hit the #1 spot. So I think that is really fascinating, and kind of where you're at as well. I'm going to shift a little bit and ask you, with everything that's going on in the global markets, and you run a global role for IBM, and everybody's at different stages of recovery, what's your focus for sales enablement right now and supporting your sellers?
Mm-hmm. You see, when I look at all the roles, and believe it or not, we have 52 roles in the go-to-market. When I talk, 50 roles when we look at the right granularity, but from the digital seller all the way to the client exec, all the flavors of technical roles, the customer success manager, and so on and so forth. They have differences, but then they have a lot of commonalities. So my point of view and my focus is really look first at what is common in all these roles. And to me, the commonalities as a sales enablement team help these people in their role to embrace technology. You cannot do this role in any specific role you play in the go-to-market without using tools like Mural. We wanted to teach them how to collaborate with their clients, especially during the last year, with remote and virtual selling, basically completely wiping the face-to-face type of collaboration. So use the technology to be smarter and be more productive as you engage with clients. Use methodology like design thinking to co-create with the client. Since the very beginning of the conversation, when I started to introduce design thinking into the sales community, people were looking at me like I was a monster with two heads. And really, design thinking is very, very helpful for opening up the opportunities that you can find talking at the right way with empathy with your clients and customers. So embracing methodology and technology to be more productive would be the #1 thing. The #2 is the peer-to-peer learning. We did spend quite a lot of energy in creating cohorts and creating groups and communities where, based on the role or the market or the stages where they are, they get together and share. As I said earlier, we believe in experiential learning quite a lot. And so having people sharing their experiences and learning from each other in a more informal way is extremely powerful. So that's where we spend time. And this is also because that is a forum where people can activate their skills. I always say content, no matter how good it is, and content is king, if we don't spend energy in skills activation and create opportunity for people to be coached as they practice, then we're doing a disservice. So when we think of all the people and all the roles and the stages where they can be, I encourage everyone to spend energy about creating these cohorts and communities of engagement where people can learn from each other, and some subject matter experts can help them to be coached.
Yeah, terrific. And I think we're going to get moved off here from a timing perspective. This has been really informative, and it's great to also just think about where we're all at right now, and that sharing of information, I think, especially if you're in a global organization, and being able to discuss where everyone's at and how to meet, your sellers where they're at, has been a discussion on a lot of the calls that I've been at, because customers are in a different place around the globe right now. and everybody's kind of navigating as we continue through this pandemic, really heavy in some countries, lighter in others, and everyone's kind of figuring out how to navigate through that. So it's interesting how 2020 was, and 2021 is still a lot of unknown and a lot of change happening, and we're kind of right at the heart of it with the sellers.
If I can say just 30 seconds, one of the things that we pivoted to this year is adding in the team of more technologists and coders, so that we can make some automation and integrations in the tools that we have, so that we could even more facilitate the content comes to you, so that the sellers, depending on which stage they are of the engagement with the client, they see exactly the type of content and the right of programs that can help them to be more effective. So we didn't have that in the horizon probably 2 years ago, but the necessity and the context where we are, I decided to invest on that kind of role in my own team. So I think a leader in sales enablement needs to constantly keep an open mind and think about, do I need a data scientist in the team? Do I need a developer? Do I need an architect that can make sense of all these tools that we are using so that we integrate faster? That's how we are transforming and how we should embrace the technology rather than resist to it.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I know we've got a question in the chat, but I'm thinking that we'll go ahead and answer it in the chat. And I'm going to hand back over to Thierry so that we can keep our agenda moving forward. But Mary, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate the insight, and I'm sure that if people want to connect with you, they can find you either on the platform or on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation because it's very rich. So thank you so much, and thank you to everybody for putting up with all my background as my kids get ready for school.
Thank you.
Have a good morning.
Thank you so much. That was thank you for sharing your great insights, Mary. Really appreciate it, and thank you, Juliana, for driving the conversation. Our next point in the agenda is our Practitioner Spotlights, and for that, I would love to introduce you to Eric Matthews. Eric is a senior global sales enablement consultant at Vonage, supporting AEs and BDRs in the US, the UK, EMEA, and in Asia Pac. He has 23 years of his sales experience and nearly 6 years of sales enablement experience. Eric has also served as a sales manager and a manager for sales enablement, and he holds a bachelor in psychology. He's the author of Forever Caterpillar, a motivational children's book, and also the CEO of Successful Talent Incorporated. On top of that, he's the proud husband and father of 3 kids. And I think, Eric, this is a special day because I think it's actually the birthday of one of your kids. So happy birthday, I would say. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Eric to take us through his story.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for having me, Terry. Thank you for the introduction. I am honored to be a part of this global all hands meeting with the Sales Enablement Society. I did have the wonderful privilege of joining you down in San Antonio, Texas, where I was also did a presentation there, where I got a little bit more detail of what I was able to do as a practitioner in sales enablement. But I'm going to give you a bit of a higher level view this time around. When you're speaking to a group of practitioners who are more than likely more experienced than you and have come across challenges that you have yet to encounter, it's kind of difficult to think of what can I say to this group that's going to be impactful. So what I decided to do was share with you the journey that I went through when I stepped into a manager role of sales enablement. Of course, as you know, that when you're stepping into a manager role of any sort, you come with plans, but you don't always know what you're up against. And I coined a personal phrase for myself that I'll tell people this jokingly, but I'm really being facetious. I'll say sales enablement is not a role, it's a lifestyle. And what I mean by that is we live, breathe sales enablement day in and day out. As trainers, you're constantly training pretty much everyone you come in contact with, right? And not to mention, this is not work that is usually done in a day or during a block of hours. As much as I try to have a good work-life balance, work kind of trickles over into the evenings, into the weekends, but that's the lifestyle of sales enablement. And people on the outside don't see it, right? But at the same time, when you're making a move within sales enablement from being an individual contributor to being a leader, there are also things that you don't see because you're on the outside looking in. So when my predecessor left her role and I entered that role, I was in for a pleasant surprise. But I went into that role, I accepted the role of a sales enablement manager or a manager of sales enablement because I wanted to do what we all are attempting to do. And some of us on this call have probably done very effectively, and that is to create more efficient training, utilizing tools and resources that are available by a variety of different companies to help you with coaching or to help you with giving your customers easy access to their CRM. A lot of different options that exist out there, but our goals are the same. We can create a simplistic learning environment, create these resourceful and these self-sufficient learners that don't have to rely on an in-person session all the time. And many of you probably have managers who absolutely love you, and probably some that do not. That's just the nature of our sales enablement. Sometimes we're underappreciated. And of course, an HR department who is satisfied with the work that we do, preparing salespeople for their roles and keeping a job with the company. Came in with all these ideas of things that I was going to change, but then I was hit with reality. That's when I learned that the group that I was going to be responsible for looked more like this: 3 roles that I was used to engaging with, used to training, to now bumping that up to double. Not only did it double, during my tenure in sales enablement, the sales teams created even more roles in more departments, or not departments, but more teams that I had to then learn how to support and support them effectively. So I was met with quite a few unknown challenges. And just to kind of just give you again an overview of my story, the first year, I'm meeting with managers and getting an idea of what is it that you are satisfied with that we are doing in sales enablement. What are the things that you would like to see us do a little bit differently? And as I had these meetings with these managers, I started to learn that parts of our program that I was not responsible for was lacking in some areas. It's just, I just don't think that at the time we maybe thought outside the box enough, or we just haven't gotten to making changes to that particular for that particular group. So these are new things that are popping up on my plate, and all of these wonderful ideas that I had to what I wanted to roll out and implement had to somewhat be put on the back burner, right? And that's because this is what the world looked like to me. Everyone was raising their hand. It seemed like I was getting requests from all over. Eric, I need you to help me. I need you to help with this. I need you guys to do that. Can you create this document? What do you know about this? And there's a bunch of information that I didn't even know yet. Now, out of fairness to my leader, who I had a great leader that I reported to, he was starting a new role at Vonage as well. So he was learning Vonage at the same time that I'm learning how to do this new role. But his experience and the he that I'm referring to, you all know, Mr. Paul Butterfield, his experience, his knowledge has helped me significantly to be able to navigate through these things. But when I was in the trenches, there's a couple of things that I had to come up with on my own to get me out of the mess that I felt like I was in, right? They say sometimes that, I can't remember whose quote it is, but I heard a quote that says that you're often promoted to the lowest level of your competency, right? And I was really feeling that, like, okay, I've never been a manager on this particular stage before. How do I become competent in this role? I got a great leader I can turn to learn the ropes, but what is going to get me through my day-to-day challenges? So I came up with a system that I want to share with you to help me prioritize how I can manage these things here. I was in a state of being reactive, but I had goals and things that I wanted to accomplish to do a lot different so I can leave a mark on a program, and felt like my time in that role was valuable. So I had to keep my eyes on this proactive prize as well. So I decided to create a list. And because I am a trainer at heart through and through, I want to encourage everyone on that can hear my voice right now to actually create these two lists. And if some of you are willing to throw some ideas in the chat, that would be fantastic so we can all learn from each other. But I created a reactive list first. I just needed to see what are all the fires coming up. I had new hire training and ramping, of course, for groups that I wasn't familiar with. Okay, this has to be handled. I have new product releases. There's all types of product updates. I have managers saying that they're changing their procedures and how they want their reps to engage. There's CRM changes. All these reactive things coming at me. But I had to gain control over it, so I decided to make a list. If anyone has any other experiences with or have any other items they feel should be on a reactive list, share that with all of us in the chat, because I'm sure we're all going through some similar things. But I also had to keep my eye on the prize. Yep, showing how revenue impact. Yes, yep, absolutely. Showing how revenue impact, proving out the value, right? Oftentimes sales enablement is one of the areas that corporate says, you know what, we can cut back on that particular department because we're almost like a very silent benefit to the company. Oftentimes, we're like the gasoline in an automobile. Right, the automobile can look as pretty as it wants. If you run out of gas, it's not going to work, right? So they often don't realize how valuable sales enablement is until they don't have it, or they really cut it down. I'm seeing some great things in the chat here. Yes, training needs. Yep, the changes to management. Absolutely, changes to management needs, but even changes in management because you got to go reestablish those relationships. So I created a reactive list. And then, of course, I created my proactive list. What are the things that I want to impact? What do I want to change and improve? I knew that we had to get away from these big manuals. We had these big training manuals. I feel like it's something out of the Flintstones now based off of how far we have come. But it was a mess to have to print and to keep up with and to make changes. It was quite frustrating, to be honest. But I knew that we needed to get away from that. We needed to implement more asynchronous type learning. We had to have an electronic intake for all the requests that was coming in at me, and figure out new tools and things of that nature we can use. So in order to keep moving the ball downfield, I had to create a proactive list that I can keep in front of me so I always remember what the goal was. And that's just part of it. Then from there, I looked at my reactive list, and then I broke it down into what was recurring. What are the things that I'm going to have to react to repeatedly? It's just going to keep coming, so I'm going to have to keep reacting to it. And then what are the things that are non-recurring? These are just one-offs. It may happen every now and then. It may actually be reoccurring, but it's not recurring. And so I decided to develop to break that list down even more. And what I did was created my own little Punnett square. Now I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey and the Franklin Covey Institute, and I followed the time management system of Stephen R. Covey, where you have you want to prioritize your list in the ABC order. You also want to do what's important but not urgent, instead of always working from a place of urgency and importance. But before I can do that, I had to gain control of my list. So this is what I developed here. I have my reactive list and then my proactive list. And I started putting together this Punnett square and said, okay, if it's reactive and recurring, I can plan and strategize this. I can meet with the manager so I can kind of get a sense of, okay, when are these sessions going to be needed? What can I expect them to, to drop? Can we put it, can I give you a schedule of the times that I'm willing to train, and you try to kind of just fill that slot, right? And I did this with my reps because with the trainers that reported to me as well, because of course they had vacation and things that they wanted to take. So I wanted to go ahead and pre-plan all of the training. So my point here is that if you know that it's a reactive situation that's going to be recurring, plan and strategize and try to gain control over how it's going to flow. Now, if it's non-recurring, these things come up unexpectedly, but if you stay close with your partners and collaborate with your partners, I know many of you probably already know this and probably do this very, very well. But for those who may have gotten a little bit loose with it or fell a little bit short of trying to stay in touch with your partners to get an idea of what they're working on, this is a good reminder. If it's because you're going to have to react to it, so you might as well try to see it coming and preempt it as much as possible. When you do these, when you get control of this reactive list, it gives you a lot more autonomy over your proactive list, and you can start creeping your ideas and implementing your goals in here. And the way I did that is saying, okay, if it's proactive and recurring, for example, self-learning, you got to learn, right? We have in sales enablement, there's a symbiotic relationship between learning and training because we have to learn and train. In fact, we have to learn it so well that we can train it to someone and they can take the ball and run with it. So there's a learning and training, or there's a learning piece of it that you have to stay connected to. But if it's recurring, take the time, carve out a little bit of time. I try to carve out a little bit of time a week on learning some new products, something that's happening within the company that I need to stay up on. I don't like to be a victim to email where I'm only learning things constantly through email. In fact, if you know me well enough, you know I don't check my email all the time because I don't like to be stuck in that perpetual reactive state of just constantly checking email. I have times that I check my email, and I have times that I learn information. Then that way I can start developing things, and I can, of course, you build relationships, and as you're building these relationships, which is a part of your proactive, recurring things, you can get information faster. You can, stay ahead of the curve. That is what it's going to take to be able to control that reactive list. And then your proactive and non-recurring lists are going to be things like enhancements and the things that you may want to eliminate. Don't be afraid, practitioners, and I know a lot of you are probably already there with me, and you can hit me on LinkedIn to help me learn some things that I may not know. But don't be afraid to eliminate things that are superfluous or is a part of another department pushing things off on sales enablement that just gets in the way and keeps your trainers and your team from working efficiently, and find areas of enhancement. This system helped me out significantly, and it allowed me to be efficient no matter what tool was released. And I had to use a lot of them. I used Trello, I used Monday.com, I used Jira, and this has helped me no matter what tool they threw at me. So I hope that you found this to be valuable and useful in your careers. And I also hope that you think that my presentation was crap. Contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. Thank you very much, Sales Enablement Society. I hope to see you out there virtually and physically someday soon.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you for sharing your insights. Maybe one quick question. If you have to go through this journey again, what would you do differently?
It's a great question. If I go through this, now that I have this system in place, the first thing that I would do is evaluate, okay, and I would have to make this decision before I even accepted the role, I would get an idea from leadership. What are the challenges that their salespeople are already facing? What are some of the challenges that they're already having with interacting with other departments? And try to gain a control of what's happening before I accept the job. And once I accept the job, then I'm going to start my meetings immediately. And just to get an idea of what's working and what's not.
Great. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Eric, for sharing your insights. Let's move over to our SES chapter updates, and I would love to hand it over to Brian and Chip for the update.
Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate this. It's Brian Ehrenfreund, co-leader of the Global Sales Enablement Society chapters. First of all, I have to say I've never followed a presentation that ends with crap. So this is a first. So yeah, this is great. I'm just ecstatic to be with everybody today. As Kelly mentioned, myself, her, Juliana, and others have been spending a lot of time focused on the chapters. The chapters are the lifeblood of our society and our organization. A lot of good things will be coming down the pike very, very shortly. Again, I just want to take an opportunity to introduce myself. I'll let Chip do the same now as well.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Thanks everyone for being on this call. I guess good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Nice participation. We really appreciate it. So as we've been talking about a little in regards to chapters, right? It's one of the focal points that with the board's help, and of course, Juliana, Brian and I are really starting to focus even more attention in expanding the chapter community. And we've had rapid growth, which has just been sensational in the last couple of years. We're striving to increase that engagement, which we feel the chapters are again focal or very, very, a strong point of that. And that then enhances the value for our membership. So that's where we're trying to go with the chapter community. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we're just honored to be able to strive towards that. So if you go to the next slide, Joanne, I can give real quick just an update of where we are. And again, it just goes to what I just stated, that right now we have 69 chapters in 25 countries. And out of that, 37 of those chapters are here in the United States and 32 are outside of the United States. So again, it just goes that we're just growing by leaps and bounds, and the conversations that Brian and I have with all the different leaders out there are just invaluable. So thank you so much.
And next, I just wanted to put a quick welcome and thank you. As Chip mentioned, we are just growing exponentially. It's been fantastic. Chip and I have been busy bringing on new chapters, as you can see on the slide here in the States in Cincinnati, Ohio, but we are very much a global organization. And quite frankly, I think as Terry said early on, we've all gotten individually so much out of the Sales Enablement Society. We felt like we wanted to give back. Same is true for me. I know one of the pleasures that I have is just dealing with SE leaders, those who are just coming into the SE role and wanting to learn globally. So not just here in the States, but you could see one of our newest chapters, Cyprus, in the Middle East, Dr. Elena and Elena. It's just been fantastic working with them and getting them launched. If you haven't seen, they're doing a fantastic job on social media promoting their new chapters, which is great. Matter of fact, they're willing to share for the other chapter leaders that are on the call. More to come on that front. I'm a big believer in sharing and not reinventing the wheel. And then we have our friends down south from us here in the States, Juan Pablo and Clara de Solares in Mexico. They've had their first meetings, and it's just been fantastic to bring them on board. We're looking to bring more chapters on board, and we appreciate all the chapter leaders and what you do. So again, thank you.
And that segues into our next slide. So obviously you can hear from Brian and I that we're very passionate, we're very involved, we love onboarding, talking to the new leaders, our existing leaders, seeing how we can evolve, but still, again, not reinventing the wheel at all the times. And we were doing some database cleanup, and we noticed some cities, some regions, some countries where we could need some help. And by that, we mean we were looking for new leadership in these areas. So San Antonio, we had our conference there. That was the last place where we had our conference in 2019. Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, the Bay Area, Portland, Tampa, Philly, Italy, and various regions with India. Actually, we had 4 spots, so there's 4 open there, or could even be more. And then also various countries in the Middle East. So again, we're analyzing and looking at where we can even pick up even more, again, on top of the people that just come to us and are very proactive. So keep that in mind if you have any thoughts or ideas for us out there, and hit Brian and I up. Our information was on the slides, and we're both on LinkedIn, so easy to find. So thank you. And at that, we'll turn it back over to Thierry.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Brian and Chip, for the update. As we said in the beginning, this is an open house call, so we have people who are both members and were not a member. If you're not a member, we would love you to sign up and become a member of the SE Society. You can do that by going to the address you see there, sesociety.org. A membership is for free, and we hope that you will all join us in the society. So if you do that, right, you actually get a wealth of information you can leverage. You get access to 8,800 people and members in that society. You get access to the discussion board where you can actually ask and pose your questions, and also contribute to a lot of the conversations already happening. You will find our community calendar there, our chapter directory. You can watch our webinars, and there is also a great podcast there for you to listen to, which is called Story from the Trenches. Our next all hands call will be on August the 18th. So please already set that in your calendar. Reserve that time. It will be the same time as this call. It will also be an hour, and we really look forward to seeing you again at that time. And then Kelly and Greg already shared this information earlier. So we did pick the dates for our next conference. It will be both personal and virtual, and it will be on the 29th of September till the 1st of October. And the location will be Atlanta in Georgia. And with that, I would like to wrap it up. Please continue the conversation. Join us on our social media channels, and I look forward to welcome you all again on August the 18th. Thank you very much for attending.